Yeah, it's your boy Girl here, back with another video, and today I got a special video, guys, man. Today we're gonna be doing a little discussion about, one of the newest mechanic. Well, it's not really new anymore, but one of the, it's a new mechanic that they kind of brought in, the revival mechanic. I kind of want to talk about the evolution of the revival mechanic over the past. When did they start it? Then they started, was it September? I think it was September. That's when they introduced this whole revival mechanic, and just seeing like the 3 units that they added it on, and seeing how they kind of like made it better each time, or how they changed it each time. I kind of want to talk about it and just seeing where I could see the revival mechanic, and I can see this really changing the meta in terms of PvP, where every single team might have a revival unit, So yeah, let's talk about it. So first unit they brought the revival mechanic was Perform Cell. Something new, it's not endurance, because there isn't any unit that can counter revival units. And you can't like nullify it. So once you kill the unit, you can't have them die in their revival state. They actually transform into their real state. So they basically have 2 lives. Where endurance, usually they have 1 life. You have units that can nullify it now. Not every unit can do that, but a lot of units can nullify it, like with their O card, or say for example units like DKP, or off their blue card like LF Piccolo. So yeah, endurance is not as tedious as it once was, and once they pop their endurance, they usually get like 20% of their health instead of 70% or 100% back of their health like these revival mechanics do. But with the revival mechanic, is their first life is their base stats are really low. Well, with the Cell, for example, see when you see Cell's thing, you see his defense is at 100. You see his attack, his strike and blast attack is not bad. It's more of his strike defense, and his blast defense is like barely scraping over 100k. You feel me? And then yeah, so then but once he transforms, it goes to 150s, right? So this is the first time they did this. And for both of them, like Cell reaches what? I think he's at 100% once he revives, I think. So let me check. I think it's right here. Yeah. So when he dies, he reached 100% health, right? It was interesting because now this is how strong units are now. Cell could pretty much die in 1 combo if you don't use his revival mechanic right, because this is how low his defense is. It's not really that hard of going through Cell's first life. Now, what makes Cell really interesting is his sub count. Now, every time he gets hit, one of his members gets hit, it reduces his own sub count. So a lot of people kind of like mess up and say they rise and rush because Cell is out, but every time they land a combo, his sub count reduces. So when you rise and rush, this guy comes back really quick again. So I think that's one of the biggest thing about Cell, is that he can come back really fast off of the revival, no matter even if his defense is really low. So that was the first, iteration of the revival mechanic. And so let's go to Blue Coup. Now, Blue Coup, right, he's on the Gaki team. He's a defensive unit, which is pretty interesting, right? Mine's at really low star, so let me just put him at max stats, right? So, his max stat before revival, he basically has, a regular stat. Like his defense is 160, 240, 230. This, like, you could say this is like a regular unit, right? Before his revival, which is really interesting, right? Let's check his abilities. But when he dies this time, he revives 50% of his health compared to 100%, because his revival mechanic has him at his defense is really higher. So if he came back with 100%, you're basically fighting 2 units in one, two lives, like 2 full regular units inside the Super Saiyan Blue Goku, which that's gonna be pretty annoying, because his defense is high, post or before revival, and then after revival is it higher? Let me check. I think it's the same. Yeah, it's pretty much, yeah. He gets a little bit more, but it's basically the same. So giving him the 50% really helps. I think it is a way to mitigate him, because he's also ran on the team on God Key, and shout out to Swift. Like, Swift really showed people like this guy is really viable, especially on the God Key team, because you have a unit like Vados. This guy can basically stay in his first life throughout the whole match, where he doesn't really have to, he can't really die that quick off his revival before he dies, because the defense he has, and then also like I said, Vados is always healing every time she switches out, pops the main ability. When she pops a green card, reduces sub count. So the more she keeps switching out, the more he can stay at his first life. So that can be problematic. So if you try to rush and you make sure you play it right, you can pretty much have Goku at full health before his revival, and keep it at full health. Take the Rise of Rush, and then he dies, and transforms. So he basically just a Rise of Rush father. But you can always keep his first life at 100% or at bay because of Vados. So I think that's what they had. That's what they understood about him, is that God Key is like, if they made him bad, if they made him get 100% health off his revival after revival, it could be really annoying, because Vados and him together is ridiculous, bro. So yeah, and it's interesting because he's a defensive unit, right? So the way they did him is interesting as well. All these revival units, they really just change it up each time. And next, let's go to the latest one, which is LF Super Saiyan 2 or Super Saiyan Gohan, Movies Gohan. And this one is just, I think he's by far the most, I don't know, how can I say? I think he's the best one, the best revival one out of them all. It's because, like, he has the offensive power to, like, do a ton of damage, right? Because Cell does damage, Revival Cell does damage, but only for a certain time count, right? And then his damage falls off. He can't put up the damage no more. But this Gohan, no matter how long the fight is in his post revival state, let's make him go max. Post revival state, this guy can put out a ton of damage. You check his main ability right here. Every time he does use a card, he does 15 damage inflicted. He has 45 damage inflicted here from battle start until transformation. So he has a lot of damage inflicted buffs. When he pops his main ability, he's also getting 15 here. Then I think his green card gives him damage inflicted buffs right here. Like, this guy has a lot of ways of getting damage inflicted buffs post transformation, which is really interesting to me. And I don't know, bro. Like, I just feel like they made this guy really, really good compared to Super Saiyan Blue Goku, and then Perfect Form Cell. I think this is the best iteration of the revival mechanic. And I think when he dies, he gets 70% of his health, which till this day, even when he revives, he does even more damage, right? But the only thing what makes him different between the Super Saiyan Blue Goku and the Revival Cell is that he's an LF unit, right? So his pull rate is really low. So you got to be really lucky to get him to max out. Like, Perfect Form Cell, Super Saiyan Blue Goku, they're really easy to 14-star. Like, their percentage rate is way easier to get. This new Gohan just came out, 0.5% chance. It's going to be really hard for people to max them out. Like, there is some people, Goresh, that maxed them out already and everything, which is actually insane. But all in all, like, the revival mechanic is going to be a meta. It's already kind of meta changing. You guys kind of seeing it, right? Like, you're seeing like, the Gaiaki team that Swift is rocking, the Vados, him, Super Saiyan Blue Goku, and say, just some other unit, right? And then Future Region androids, they kind of have this Cell. He can delay rising rushes. Not the best out of the three. I think he's the worst one, but he's still really, really good, bro. Like, and then you're seeing what's the name? Now you're seeing hybrids, or you're seeing Sun Family. You're seeing movies have like this revival unit as well with Super Saiyan 2 Gohan, and especially with the hybrids team, with him paired up with the future Gohan, you're seeing units that has kind of like double life in a sense, where Rise of Rush, where they're delaying Rise of Rush with the revival mechanics and everything. And I just feel like teams that have revival units right now has a really good edge, bro, because just like you can delay people's Rise of Rush, and that's a really important mechanic in the game. Or you're actually restricting units, people to use their Rise of Rush as fast as possible, because they can't pop it right away, because they gotta they don't want it to go to waste and land it on a revival unit. And say, for example, their Rise Rush gets guessed, that unit just got a ton of value off of you, right? So I think what we're going to see is, we're going to see a lot of more teams getting this revival this revival mechanic. We might see, let me see. We might just see other teams get it. We might see, say for example, we might see a fusion revival mechanic. We might see a lot of units get revival units. A lot of teams getting the revival mechanic, and it's gonna be to a point where it's gonna be really hard. Like the game is gonna slow down really, like by a lot, because it's not gonna be about, oh, if you mess up twice, someone can absolutely just rise and rush you like straight away. I think a lot of people are gonna have to like really preserve the rise and rush. I think that's how they're gonna try to nerf the rise and rush, in the sense where they're gonna try to make every team get a revival unit, or not every team, but a lot of teams are going to get these revival units, and it's going to be hard to rise and rush, right away. You're going to have to be a lot more smart with your rise and rush. Say doing a full counter blast rise and rush when someone pops a rise. If you guys watch my videos, I do it every single time. When someone pops a blast and I rise rush immediately, or say if they sidestep or you close range, you rise rush. You can't really just use your rise rush blatantly because of these revival units. So I think this is going to be a meta changing. I think a lot of people are starting to like really open their eyes and see how valuable revival units are now. Like they've always been good, but I think ever since this, this LF Gohan, people are starting to see like, this revival mechanic is actually kind of annoying. And then if you're pairing, and then if you're lucky, you have another unit on your team that has an endurance unit like the future Gohan for hybrids. Or say, for example, future Gohan for even future, because the cell can be ran on future as well. And it gets annoying, bro. It gets annoying. Like it puts a lot of, wow, oh my gosh, I stutter. But it just puts a lot of stress on you, because you gotta play perfectly, bro. Because if you mess up, if you rise rush the wrong time, bro, you can pay. Like it's really bad for you. So that's just kind of my thoughts on revival mechanic. I'm kind of seeing it. They still don't know what's the best, what's the balanced way to doing it, because of cells thing, like they change it every single time they introduce a new revival unit. So I'm curious to see when are they gonna find that threshold. Like, all right, this is how we're gonna do revival units, every single time. But it's also different because these units have different circumstances. Like the cell is the cell is a range unit, right? And then this Goku is a defensive unit, and then this revival Gohan is an LF unit, right? So none of them really correlate with each other in terms of typings or rarity, in a sense, because you have one that's LF, you have one that's defensive, you have one that's attacker. So they're still trying to figure out what's the best way. So I'm really trying to find a common thing about them. I mean, of course, the common thing is they're all revival units, but they have different typings and different rarities. So it's actually going to be kind of hard to really, predict on like what will be the, what's going to be the next revival unit. What it's going to have, is the defense going to be like revival Goku's, or is it going to be like Cell? And when he revives, is it going to be 100% like Cell? Is it going to be 50 like Goku? Is it gonna be 70? Like we just don't know. So, like I said, I think this is a meta changing mechanic. I feel like I said, I think we're gonna see a lot more teams rocking these and having these type of units, and I think that's gonna be their answer of how to delay the rise and rush. Because, bro, like the way you get your rise and rush is so fast, bro. You can get it in 20 timer counts. You can get it in two combos. Like say you do two mistakes. That team, that your opponent is gonna have the rise and rush ready to go. So I think they know, like, I guess like farming rise and rush, they can't find a way to reduce you farming rise and rush. So I think their answer is trying to do like revival mechanics units, where it's gonna be hard for you to use your rise and rush even though you get it super fast, because you don't want to waste it, right? So I think this is the answer for it. I think this is their answer for it. I don't think this is the best way of answering against rise and rush. I think you should just reduce the cost. Reduce the rate of them being pulled for the Dragon Balls. But yeah, the revival mechanic is going to be here to stay. It's going to be interesting to see how they do with it in the future, what other units are going to get from it, and all that stuff. So yeah, I think that's that's it with this video. Let me know what you guys think, man. I think it's definitely better than the endurance, because so many units nullifies it. And I'm really curious, are they gonna have units that nullify revival units? Because there's also a character that kind of does something that gets buffs based on killing a revival unit, and it's Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta. If you see one of his main abilities, I think, or is this one right here, right? If he defeats a reviving unit, he restores his health by 20 and increases Dragon Balls by 2. So I think they might not have units to nullify reviving units, but they're gonna get, like, you know, an incentive if you defeat a unit with him, like this Vegeta, like this Gogeta, for example. Like, he defeats them, he gets health and he increases Dragon Balls by 2. So I feel like they're not gonna nullify revival mechanic. I think that if you do kill them for units in the future, they're gonna get like maybe some crazy stat buffs, so to counter it. So that is kind of my thing about the revival mechanic. I think it's gonna be like I said, it's a meta change in mechanics. So let me know what you guys think about the revival mechanic. What you guys see it in the future? Do you see more teams having revival units on their team and all that stuff? So yeah, that's it with this video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Like, comment, subscribe. And we're Girl, man, and I'm out. Peace.